So first your baby was sick, and then you started rocking your baby to sleep, and then you were bringing your baby in your bed with you at night, and now your baby won't sleep by himself anymore? Well, stay tuned and we will talk about how to get your baby's sleep back on track after sickness. Hi guys, thanks for tuning in today. My name is Missy and I am a certified pediatric sleep consultant. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about what to do when your baby gets sick in terms of sleep and helping them sleep better to get better faster. So the biggest tip that I have for you today is to always be prepared. No one ever wants to have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, realize that your kid is running 102-degree temperature, and then have to run out to the store and buy medicine. Nobody wants to do that, so make sure that you are always prepared and that you have everything at home that you might need in the case of a late night sickness. So speaking of medicine, tip number 1 is to always follow your pediatrician's recommendation when it comes to administering medicine. Don't just guess and don't just play that little guessing game of, hey, I'll just give them this dose. Make sure that if you're questioning it, that you give your doctor a call because they're always on call and they can always answer your questions. Tip number 2 you would think would be obvious, but I have to throw it in there because of my own personal experience here. Make sure that you have a working thermometer. At one point when Joshua was maybe like 8 months years old, when he was like 8 months old, he felt really hot and we thought that we had a fever, but the thermometer was reading like 92 degrees. So we called the doctor and they were like, well, take his temperature. And we took his temperature, but it was still reading really low. So she was like, all right, go to the store, get a new thermometer, and then I'll call you back in 20 minutes. And we're like, okay. So I actually got one of these. It is a Smart Glow thermometer and you basically just put it on the forehead. So it reads pretty easily, 98.2, and I was kind of skeptical of these kind of thermometers at first because I'm like, how can that be accurate? They always tell you to do it like under the tongue, under the armpit, or rectally for the little tiny babies. Which none of that is even ideal because they're so wiggly. And I mentioned in my blog, if you read my blog post about this, that getting your baby's temperature should not be a wrestling match. So typically when I do use this thermometer, I do give it a couple tries, 98.4, and I'll go the other way, 98, 98.5. So as you can tell, I am not sick, contrary to everyone else in my house, but I think it's important to get something like this or some sort of thermometer and make sure that it works. In tip number 3, I'm going to talk about tips to help your child with their congestion. Little kids, babies, young toddlers, they can't blow their noses yet, although I will say that Joshua is almost 2 and he blows his nose like the cutest little baby in the entire world. But that's besides the point. If your baby is congested, then a humidifier in their room will help. And also a vapor bath. I didn't even know that these existed, but I think it's Johnson & Johnson, the brand that we got, and I'm sure that there are other brands out there that have the actual vapor bath bubbles. I will put a link in the description box below to the one that we got. But I love it and my kids love it. Anytime that they're congested, then we give them one of these vapor baths and it just helps break up the mucus. Another thing that some parents like to do to help with the congestion is use the nose Frida. If you know about the nose Frida, I can't even talk. If you know about the nose Frida, crack myself up. Anyway, if you know about the nose Frida, then you know that you have to like stick it up your kid's nose and then there's a tube and you have to suck it out with your mouth. I am not doing that. I will not ever do that. Some parents swear by it and I love my kids, but I'm sorry, I'm not sucking snot out of your nose. I will forever use the bulbs that you get at the hospital, and I know that they sell them at the store, but we, like with 3 kids, we have so many of these little like nose suction bulbs at our house that that's pretty much all I'm ever gonna use. And you can just wash that out with warm soapy water and it works just as fine. But if you want to suck the boogers out of your kid's nose, then go ahead and get yourself a nose Frida. So in terms of sleeping, when your baby is sick, I know that a lot of parents want to keep an eye on their child and they think that the baby is going to be the safest sleeping in the parent's bed. And while everybody has their own opinions about this, but I don't find it safe, and I will always advise to keep your kid in their own crib, in their own sleep environment, even when they are sick. And by all means, use your monitor. Even if your kid is a toddler and you haven't been using it anymore, pull it back out of the closet and set up your monitor. Or you could always sleep in your kid's room. It's gonna be easier for them to get used to sleeping on their own again without you in the room than to be transitioning from sleeping in your room all over again and then transitioning back into their room. So if you want to pull in a sleeping bag or an air mattress, then you can always sleep on the floor in their room and make sure that they're okay and check on them throughout the night. That way you're right there next to them, but you're not creating any new bad sleep habits. So the next tip, I know people are gonna say like, oh, you are crazy, but let me tell you that I have been doing this all week. Joshua has been sick and Timmy has been sick, and while I don't really put Timmy to bed anymore, he's 5 years old, I certainly could, but my kids have all been putting themselves to sleep since they were about 4 months old. And Joshua has also been sick. He's the youngest, so he is the most relatable to this topic. He is 21-ish months old. You kind of stop counting after a couple kids, but he'll be 2 in January. Anyways, he's been really congested and really sick, and there have been times where he wakes up in the night and he cries and he needs the comfort. And by all means, always, 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 always comfort your child when they're sick. I'm never going to tell you not to do that. But if you can try to comfort them and then put them back in their crib while they are still awake, then you're going to have less to fix once they're healthy again. So try doing just comforting them and then putting them back in their bed while they're still awake. Of course, that's not always gonna happen and it's not always realistic. I understand that 100%, but if you at least try, then you'll never know if you don't try. So my next tip is about feeding your baby and letting them sleep. So we all know that sleep helps your body heal, and that when your baby is sick, that they're gonna need more sleep than they typically need on a regular, healthy day. But it's also important to remember that your baby needs to eat, especially if you're breastfeeding, and they need to stay hydrated. So always check with your doctor about this recommendation, but sometimes you might have to wake your baby up to get them to eat and then put them right back to sleep because you want them to be hydrated. The last thing you want is for your baby to be sick, tired, and dehydrated. So making sure that they are sleeping an appropriate amount and also eating an appropriate amount and drinking enough. For some older babies and toddlers, some doctors may recommend Pedialyte. I remember when Timmy was a little baby and he was so sick and he would not eat or drink anything, and the doctor recommended Pedialyte Pops. They were awesome and he loved them, and we actually keep them in the freezer all the time now, just in case anybody gets like hand, foot, and mouth or anything where they can't eat, or like strep, which luckily we have not had yet. But if there's ever any kind of illness where they won't eat or drink, we at least have the Pedialyte Pops on hand. The last tip that I have for you today is to always make sure that everybody is washing their hands frequently. Now, this is something that you should be building into your schedule and routine as your child is getting older and that they're getting more independent. They're gonna get into things, they're gonna get dirty, and you should just build it into their routine so that they're washing their hands at given times of the day. So maybe, for example, they're waking up in the morning and washing their hands. They're washing their hands after they play. They're washing their hands before and after they eat. They're washing their hands before bed. They're obviously washing their hands after they go to the bathroom. And whatever points of the day that you find it more of a natural transition, clean up, wash your hands, eat your lunch, wash your hands, go play. Typically that's going to keep your kid healthier because they're in the routine of being clean, and just teaching them like wash your hands. I sing wash your hands, wash them nice and clean on the tops and on the bottoms and fingers in between. And then they wash their germs down the drain. Bye-bye germs, because we don't want germs in our house. If you're interested in my bedtime and morning routine cards, then washing their hands is a part of both of those routines, and I will leave that link in the description box as well. So my final piece of advice is to always make sure that your child is healthy for 24 to 48 hours before reinstating your healthy sleep habits or routines or schedules or whatever you have, and make sure that it's approved by the doctor. If you were in the middle of sleep training and your baby got sick, make sure that it's approved by your doctor to continue sleep training again. The last thing that you want is for you to think that your baby is better, to have your baby act like he's doing better, and then you start sleep training again, and then all of a sudden you have to stop again because he really wasn't better in the first place. So always just making sure that they are 100% for a day or two before you start putting your old routines back into place. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something from it. Leave me in the comments down below if you guys have been healthy so far this fall or if you've been sick. I feel like my kids have had colds like literally for the past month, and it's only November. So I'm really hoping that it's going to be a healthier season for us, and I'm actually gonna head to the store today and buy them some vitamins because we kind of stopped their vitamins over the summer, which isn't the best thing to do, but we need to get back on the multivitamin train. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.